Danny's cabinet shop. This cabinet was going to be awesome, but I had a staple come through the front, so I'm going to have to tear that putty out and reface it. It looks like crap. Yeah, that cabinet's a corner cabinet. That one took me a long time to make. This one I made, but I stained it. And I wasn't thinking, I was thinking, oh, the stain's going to dry lighter. No, that is a very dark cabinet. Let me show you the doors. I have 6 doors or something like that. They're too dark. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to do how to make a cabinet, kitchen cabinet. This is the upper kitchen cabinet, and we'll start. This is cabinet grade plywood. This side's sanded, but it's the bad side. This is the pretty side. Well, my footprints on it. Looks like this. Pretty plywood. I think I'll need about 3 sheets or 2.5. And first I'm going to do is cut my trim for the front, and that's 1.5 inches. Why is it 1.5 inches, you ask? Well, my brad gun can shoot a 2-inch brad. That's max. So if 1.5 inches, I can shoot from the top and it'll go into the trim piece, and I won't have to use a pocket screwer, which I don't own. First thing you need to do before you cut is find out how far your blade is from the end of your saw. I'm using a guide that'll ensure I do a straight cut. I'm not going to go over here, I'm going to move it here when I actually cut. The first thing you want to do is you want to measure, and it's 1.5 inches from the blade, and we know the blade is 1/8 of an inch. The blade is 1/8, so we want to do, when we cut inch, so we're going to cut a 1.5 inch piece for trim. We're going to we'll make our line at 3 1/8, so right there. And then that way, that'll be exactly 1.5 inches piece we cut off. Because it's 1.5 inches from here, the blade is 1/8 of an inch, and we want the piece to be 1.5 inches. Alright, so I know at least what I can get out of this sheet of plywood. I can get at least 6 trim pieces, the 3 shelves, the top, the bottom, the middle shelf, and 1 side, maybe 2 sides, depending on how I cut it. You want to try not to have much scrap when you're making a cabinet, because this plywood is very expensive. So we're at 3 1/8 exactly. 3 1/8 exactly. Check the middle. 3 1/8. So we're good. Alright, let's see if we did our work right. And that is exactly 1.5 inches. Check this other end, just make sure. Exactly 1.5 inches. As you can see, I've been cutting a lot, and that's sawdust. Don't want that in your lungs, it's bad for you. Anyway, got all my trim pieces cut. I actually cut more than I need, because I'm going to be making other cabinets too. I got 6 pieces of 1.5 inch trim for the fronts of the cabinets. Some people use oak, that way you don't have this edge, but I don't mind that edge. So next I'm going to cut one of the shelves that goes in between the cabinet, the middle one, or the bottom or top, and that is 1 foot exactly. And then that'll leave me with a little more than around 26 inches of wood this way, 26 inches and a half, and then an 8-foot piece. And I think I can get all the doors and the sides out of 1 sheet of plywood, and then I can get the other 2 shelves and the back out of 1 sheet of plywood. So I might actually be able to do it with 2 sheets of plywood in total, which would be awesome. Alright, I cut either the top, bottom, or middle shelf. So now I'm going to do the end pieces. And this piece of plywood I should get all my doors out of, and end pieces. It's going to be 23 inches and a half by 1 foot 3/4 of an inch. So I got this set to 25 1/8, so it'll do a 23.5 inch cut, and then I'll cut it again and do my end pieces out of it. So I'm going to cut it and I'll film it. Three and a half. just cut one side of the cabinet. That is 12 3/4. And for future reference, to cut 12 3/4 with your guide, which is 1.5 inches from 12 3/4 plus 1/8 of an inch, you need to cut 14 3/8. You need to make your marks 14 3/8 for your guide to be. Remember that. So let's see if I can get one more door out of this little piece right here. I mean, not door, but side. I'll have the two sides ready. And I'll start on the back and more shelves on another piece of plywood, and keep this piece of plywood for doors. Alright, the back and the bottom shelf and the top shelf have to be the same size exactly. So I went ahead and put this bar across. I'm going to clean off this end first. And so it needs to be 82. No, it needs to be 80.5 inches. The shelves do in the back. So I set this to 79 inches because I know my guard goes to here, 1.5 inches away from the blade, where the blade will be. And since I'm measuring on this side of the blade, I don't have to factor in the blade into the cut. So it's not 79 1/8. It's 79 inches, and it'll be exactly where the guide is 79 inches, and the cut will be exactly 80.5 inches. Well, I just made a mistake. It's going to cost me another sheet of plywood. Well, not all of it, just a little bit of it. I cut to, I put the trim piece of metal, the guide, to 13 1/8, when really I should have put it to 13 5/8. And so this is a 1/2 inch off, and so this piece will be used for something else, sadly. I got the back cut, sides, the 3 shelves, including the bottom and the top. Actually, that's not the back. This is the back. There you go. That's what I'm going to cut the doors out of. I got the wood for the face cut. 6 pieces of it. More than enough. So tomorrow I'll build the carcass of the cabinet, face it out, and then I'll cut my doors out of this. And then we can putty the places that need it, and sand it, and stain it. So yeah. So I got the basic carcass of the cabinet built. I did have a couple staples. Well, Brad's coming through the top, but no one's going to see that, so that's alright. I don't see any. It came in on the inside, so that's good. Go ahead and start the trimming out process. Dun, dun. Yep, let's start trimming it out. Get my saw out here and cut some trim. As the sun goes down, this cabinet is now faced out. Those are all 12-inch doors, except for this one is 11.5. So it'll be 6 doors altogether. It's I'm going to put screws going in the back of the shelves just for more security from the back. But tomorrow's going to be all about wood putty and sanding. Once that dries, I'll do the wood putty early in the morning, and then staining, hopefully. I don't know if I get to polyurethane, but I'll at least try to get to staining tomorrow. Hopefully I can leave it outside. Oh, for mounting it up here, I put the brads going from down here. They're 2-inch brads. 2 on the bottom, 2 on the top, 1 in the middle, all the way across. That's plenty strong for this cabinet. I say it looks pretty good to me. It'll look a lot better once it gets polyurethane stained and sanded. It's going to look good. Hopefully I can leave it out here overnight. I don't think it's going to rain. Yep. Alright, I'm going to stain it now. I've sanded the cabinet. Use a little bit of the cloth. Wipe it in. So here I got our cabinet. I went ahead and sanded again and stained again. I'm trying to see, this is where the cabinet place, the cabinet grade plywood, they actually patched a place in it before they sold the plywood, which doesn't show up until you stain it. So that looks kind of obvious, but the door is going to cover it for the most part. Yeah, I got a couple places like that. I don't know if the camera picked those up, but I see them. But I went ahead and sanded it and stained it again to try to hide those imperfections. But I don't think that worked. But I'm going to get an ear swab, and I'm going to take a ear swab with stain on it and try to dab it onto there. You can see definitely on this end where the nails were. So I'll work on that a little bit. The other cabinet I made that I stained way too dark, my learner cabinet, I'm going to go ahead and mount the doors on it and put in the pantry. It's a nice cabinet. It's almost 8 feet. No, it's almost 7 feet long. So it's a pretty good cabinet. Dip a little bit in the stain. See, ear swab with a little bit of stain on it. I should wipe some of that off. I don't want it to drip. Trying to cover that wood putty carefully. So here's that first cabinet I made. I got it, well, let me find you a good place. Screwed up to the roof, and it also screwed every 16 inches where there's a stud. And that one covers the washer and almost the hot water heater pretty good. So it's a nice big cabinet. I couldn't get it up square exactly to the roof, but close enough. So that's good. And now I got the ones that are going to be kitchen cabinets, all the doors. This is the tops. This is actually dry. First I did a coat of polyurethane, and that brought up all the burrs or anything. And you sand that off, and then it becomes really smooth with 2 more coats of polyurethane. So altogether 3, but 1 was sanded off. So yeah, real smooth and glass-like. And I use foam brushes so I don't leave any trails like with a bristle brush. This one, very smooth. I stained the bottoms, but I didn't polyurethane them. I just did that in case someone saw the bottoms. It's not a lighter color. Very smooth. Oh yeah. This will be a nice cabinet. So here's the finished product. Cabinet hanging on the wall. With the other cabinet, this is a 10-foot segment of cabinet. I did my best to line up all the doors. That was really hard. The handles are the cheapest ones I could find. I'm finding 36 of them because I know I'm going to be building a bunch more cabinets. I'm trying building one now. I got screws, 3-inch screws going into studs. I've tested it. It's not going nowhere. I can hang on it. I actually did once. It's solid. I should have spent a little bit more time lining up the doors. You can see this one's a little bit lower. I could adjust it later. But cabinet is finished. There's the corner one. The upper is anyway. I would say man hours, sanding. Building a cabinet didn't take me that long at all. It's just sanding, polyurethane, sanding. I stain, then I sand, then I stain again, then I polyurethane, then I sand, and then I do 2 more coats of polyurethane. But it's a like glass finish that is just smooth to the touch. I did here, and I like it. I think it'll protect the cabinet well. Underneath the cabinet, I didn't want to waste time sanding and staining, so I just put 1 coat of stain underneath. You're not going to see that much, but anyway. Cabinet is finished. If I was to do it again, you can see where I puttied the brads. I would sand that well. In fact, I'm doing it again. I'll show you guys in a second. But here's the finished product.